Hi, Julian here from PopcornFX. In this video I'm going to show you a quick teaser of a new feature in version 2.9 regarding localization and translation. So it's something we've been working on since a little while now, and in previous versions you had a few drop downs to control language, but the editor UI wasn't translated at all, simply because we don't have the resources internally to translate everything, because the UI changes a lot, because we have a lot of tooltips and descriptions that we update regularly at each version. So without having native speakers in-house, it's pretty much unrealistic to have handmade translations. But in version 2.9 we tried out a new idea, which is dynamic translation. So here in the editor preferences, in the general category, if I pick, for example, Japanese, and I check the enabled dynamic translations, you will see that everything gets translated. So I don't understand any of it. But when you open effects, such as this one, by the way, just made a video tutorial about how to spawn particles on animated textures, you should check it out. So in the general UI, everything pretty much should be translated. So you have the tooltips which are translated, and this is all going through the Google Translate API. So this is obviously going to have some pretty bad translations in there. So as I said, I have no idea what this says, but it's probably not saying file there or edit. It's probably saying some funny thing that is not the correct term for the correct IT term or computing term, as apparently the Google Translate things is more trained on books and regular literature texts. There is little chance that it will get right some of those one-word translations. So this is kind of expected. We're not trying to have perfect translations. We know it will be funny at times. For example, if I pick a language which I speak and understand, such as French, I instantly see that these things are completely weird. But anyway, that's the current state of the thing. Overall, it does much better for longer translations, such as the tooltips. So here we exposed a whole bunch of controls. If you don't like seeing what the fuck translations up there, you can disable the translate the UI here. So when you don't translate the UI, it will keep the menus and stuff in English. But it will still translate, for example, the tooltips or the properties. You can disable the properties specifically if you want. And translate asset content. This one is interesting because it sends the text to translate over the network to Google Translate. Basically, you might not want the texts that you type in your effects, especially for undisclosed projects, to be sent over the network to Google. So for the UI and the properties and the tooltips, it's not really a problem because it's our stuff, so we don't care. We don't care that we send editor preferences or project launcher or whatever to Google, but for your effects you might want to disable translate asset content. This would be mostly useful if you're not a native speaker and you want to look at the annotations that we place in our tutorial and sample effects, which are written in English. So if you want to see that auto-translated to your language, just check that. But then for your effects, it will also try to translate your effects when you open them. So something useful to know. And it's disabled by default just so that you don't, just so that you have to opt in explicitly and it doesn't start translating your stuff without you knowing. Yep, that's pretty much it. It's the first shot of the thing. We have a bunch of ways to improve those auto translations up there. And when you first enable it, it might take some time to pop. So for example, here if no, it's pretty much instant. I tried most of these. Yeah, yeah, so here, for example, Norwegian, it will take a bit of time the first time to have everything arrive, so don't worry about that. It's normal. But then when you close the editor, it will save the already translated text into a local cache on your hard drive, which you can go through. I should have kept it in English. I have no idea what this says. Yeah, so if you go here in advanced, translation cache folder, right? So when you choose this, it will pop this. It's in local app data, local temp, and these are the translation files. So you can delete them if you don't want them, but then it will have to re-download everything. Whenever it finds something in the translation cache, it won't re-query on the network. So in the content browser, in the cache, edit cache, you can also clear the translation cache, and it will, yeah, basically delete all your translation files in there. So yes, we can override some of these and manually say translate file as this specific word in this specific language. We haven't done any of that yet. We just want to get the initial feedback of the feature. Do you think it's useful? And would you like us to work more on it? Yeah, just tell us what you think. It will be appreciated. Thanks.